Welcome to YMI Talking, a podcast where the guests are so good, you'll wonder why the host is even talking. In each episode, you will hear one of the leaders of the Lehigh Valley's vibrant business hub. They will tell you the keys to their success, the mistakes they've made, and what they have in store for the future. Here is the host of YMI Talking, from YMI Insurance, Jimmy Honachik.
All right. Welcome back to another episode of Why Am I Talking? And I could not be more excited about this episode. When I started the podcast, I basically had two goals in mind for an ideal guest. And the first is that they're an interesting person. And the second is that they are involved in the infrastructure and the lifeblood of the Lehigh Valley. And we couldn't get any closer to that ideal person than we do today. Jenn Mann is joining us after a long career in the Lehigh Valley, where she had her own wireless company. She was involved in politics, and now she is a consultant. Everyone knows her. She is incredible and does incredible things, and I'm super honored to have you here. Jenn, thank you so much for coming on.
Hi, Jimmy. Thanks so much. I appreciate the opportunity to sit and chat with you.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this for a long time. I was doing my research, and I saw that you have your own Wikipedia page. I think you're my first guest with their own Wikipedia page, so that's pretty cool.
The only reason that exists, Jimmy, is because at one point I had staff, and I could give them an assignment to create the Wikipedia page. So that's the truth.
Hey, it works. I was gonna play a game with you on Wikipedia, where basically we try to click through to get to you. It's called the Wikipedia game, but you and I have had enough difficulty setting up this meeting and getting it going. I'm just going right into it.
All right, you got it.
So I guess I want to start, let's start at the very beginning with you. You have been, your roots are in the Valley, and not all of my guests have that. I grew up in the Poconos. A lot of people have found their way here, but you kind of grew up here. So tell me about your experiences growing up here.
Well, you're right. Not only have I lived my entire adult life, my entire life, in the boundaries of the city of Allentown, my parents can say the same thing. My dad's mother is almost 101, wow. And my Nana, and she lives in the house my dad grew up in. So I say we're about as Allentown as it gets, and really feel grateful. It's a great community. We've obviously encountered bumps along the roads in the past, few decades, but I think it's a great place to be born and raised, to grow up. There were so many opportunities afforded to us, and I love it. Home is home. I will also say that it's one of the things that prompted me to run for office is that care and passion for our community, and particularly for this city. And recognizing that, like any urban area, regardless of size, the challenges are the same. It's the scope that's different. And we've encountered those, and we need good people to step up and tackle those challenges. And we continue to have good people do that. And I was honored to be able to be in that position for 14 years.
Yeah. And that'll transition into, when I'm doing my research on you, there was a Morning Call article that came out in 1998, right as you were running for office. And there were so many interesting things that I read about you in this article, and sort of, you were echoing a lot of the things you just said here, in that it takes a community to care about itself, right? It takes parents to step up and be involved in the schools. And so during your time, do you think you've seen that happen in the Valley? Have you seen people really step up?
I travel a fair amount, both for fun and for work, number of conferences throughout the year. And it's funny because I'll bump into people who'll have some recollection of a visit to Allentown or the Lehigh Valley, and they'll mention something. And I'm thinking, my goodness, if they would walk and they could come into town today, they'd be blown away, because yes, there's a semblance of what was, because we have that foundation, but it is such a different place now than it was 10 years ago, 15 or 20 years ago. So I do think that we've seen a great amount of change here. And some of us could argue some of that's for the better, and maybe some would argue that some of it isn't. But, you don't get to just get the good stuff. Sometimes you get all of it, and you just hope there's more good than challenging. I think of things like with the development and the way things have really sprawled out into the suburbs here. Right now a very hot topic is the growth of warehouses, and a lot of people sort of at the end of their appetite for that type of economic expansion, and the stress that it puts on the roadways and the fact you're taking up green space with these large structures. So yeah, there's been the good, there's been the challenge, but certainly I think that for a community that was so built upon the industrial age and that heavy manufacturing, to have transitioned as well as we have, I think is pretty remarkable. And to not lose sight of our values. I think one of the reasons this region, the Lehigh Valley, has been able to transition in large part is because there's always been a fundamentally strong work ethic, regardless of what the industry, regardless of the company. That's why companies have come here, built here, and stayed here, is because that is a fundamental core value of people in the Lehigh Valley, and it's something I think that has helped us be able to transition from the days of the big heavy manufacturing to the more lighter manufacturing, more particularly skilled workforce that you see today.
Yeah, it's funny. So in that article, you talk about, and I think it ties in with this, a talent exodus, where it was a really good story. You went to your Allen High reunion, and there were doctors and lawyers and all these well-to-do people who had moved out of Allentown. And you were like, this can't happen. We can't keep training people and bringing them up and then letting them go elsewhere. I just had a conversation recently with a good friend. We both moved back to the area. We had gone out, gotten our degrees, done this and that, and come back. And so are you starting to see the talent coming back?
Well, it's interesting, and I didn't see the numbers for the 2020 census, so forgive me. My numbers are a little bit dated. But I know going back to the 2000 census, or the 2010 census rather, 78% of people who live in Pennsylvania were born here. So basically what it says is we might leave, but we tend to come back. And I think that continues to be a trend. I think people recognize the standard of living that exists here. I think the quality of life has improved in entertainment opportunities, cultural opportunities. The Lehigh Valley is a very different place and a much more desirable place to live, work, raise a family than it was 20 years ago. And I think it was a pretty darn good place then. Yeah. But there are certainly a whole lot more opportunities here that appeal to people who maybe don't have the familial or emotional ties to the community as you and I have, and they're just kind of looking at a piece of paper and putting, city X against city Y and saying, where should we go? So I think that's definitely a plus factor. I think if you talk to employers here in the Valley now, they'll tell you, like anybody, employees are hard to come by at every level, whether it's entry level or middle management or upper management. I think also as things have improved here in the Lehigh Valley and the economy continues to be strong, we're also seeing housing costs become less and less affordable, which is another challenge to bring people to the Valley to work and to keep people here, because that certainly is a challenge and an area that's a big gaping hole for us to really focus on and tackle as a larger community.
So I had a set list of the questions I wanted to go in and the order I wanted to go in, but you're so compelling in the things that you're saying, and it's making me reconsider. So we talk about the transition that the Lehigh Valley has had, and I think you and I'm sure your peers played a large part in that, right? Like it was the development that we've seen happen, and your time in service in office. So to speak to maybe some of the tangibles of what you and your peers did to take the Valley and sort of have this rebirth.
Well, I think the last 20 years have really been pivotal, and I think one of the biggest partners in helping to make a lot of these things happen was during the Rendell administration. When Rendell was governor, he was very pro-economic development, very aggressive about improving the Lehigh Valley and the communities. Of course, at that time, the Bethlehem Steel site was essentially big, vacant, and represented 20% of the landmass of the city of Bethlehem, so that there was no Wind Creek or Bethlehem Sands. That was a project that was yet to come. We didn't have the Iron Pigs, but Rendell was very committed to bringing minor league baseball here to the city of Allentown. And, we were able to put together a deal not only to bring AAA baseball, so the highest level of minor league baseball, but to get the Phillies AAA affiliate here. I mean, it couldn't be more perfect.
Yeah.
And I could tell you that was a deal that was on life support many, many times for many reasons. Not to leave out that the city of Allentown was not very cooperative at all in making that happen, which was very frustrating because it's the proverbial fighting the war on two fronts. Trying to secure the funding in Harrisburg, working the logistics of getting a franchise, and then having to get the city to cooperate. Which ironically, they didn't kick in a nickel then. They almost chased the team, and still our most recent city council voted against giving the team any money to help support them and keep them here, which is shameful. I don't know how those folks can even make any sense of a decision like that. When you think of the economic impact that having that facility here in the city of Allentown has been huge to the bottom line for revenue, people coming in. And it's great because people talk about the Lehigh Valley all the time because that's the Phillies AAA affiliate. You look at, I'll tell you a quick story if I can.
Yeah.
Sometimes these things are more fun with stories, but the price of that ballpark had kind of been arbitrarily, a number came up, and I think it's because they thought we could get a certain dollar amount from the state for the project, and that has to you have to match that dollar for dollar. So let's just arbitrarily say the stadium is going to cost $30 million. Or we think we can get $15 million from the state. So they said, oh, well, then it'll be a $30 million ballpark. And the reality was, till it was done, it was over $50 million.
Wow.
And I remember this day very clearly. I was in my kitchen doing something quickly, and it was after hours, so, in the evening, and I get a phone call, and it's a friend who worked for the governor and says, Jen, I got the governor on the phone for you. All right, and I'm like, what do you got, Gov? And he says, Jen, I'm hearing that this ballpark's not going to happen up there, that things aren't going well. And I said, oh, no, Governor. I said, exactly the opposite. I said, in fact, we had a groundbreaking ceremony just earlier this week or the week prior. And not only is it happening, it's going to cost more. I said, so that $12 or $14 million you promised us isn't going to be enough. I need some more money. So he thought he was coming to peel the money back because he had identified somewhere else that could use the money. But I had to tell him not only were things moving forward as we planned, but we needed even more money, which he found a way to provide, and the county stepped up in a big way to make that project happen. And so, a lot of times it just looks easy on the surface, but those things don't always happen as you would like them to, or as easily as they appear to have.
I think that last sentence kind of summarizes your career. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you find things that maybe you make things look easy, right? Like that's sort of what I have come to know you as. You find these difficult, complex issues and you make them happen. Is that a fair assessment of what you've done in your career?
I wish I could make my golf game look simple. You talk to any golfer and they say, how do you watch golf? It's so boring. I said, not if you play. So you see how good these players are,
yeah.
And you know how hard it actually is. I don't know. I mean, I think like anybody else, you go out there and you work hard and you try to make good things happen. I think anything worthwhile takes a lot longer than something that isn't. Right? big things and big things tend not to happen quickly, and they tend not to happen easily. And that's the reality. And what it just takes is not giving up. And it's not any one person, but oftentimes, these projects need a cheerleader. They need a champion who's going to cling to it and say, we're not going to stop short of our goal here. And you look at the NIS, for example, and ironically, I was with Senator Brown, who's now Secretary Brown, first thing this morning, and we were just talking a little bit about the NIS and how significant and necessary that's been for the city of Allentown.
Yeah.
People like to pick on the city because somehow, some way, they think if you come up with a program, an investment vehicle such as the NIS, that all of a sudden all the problems are going to go away. And, we're several years into this, and I think we can all agree that the city still has significant challenges, but it certainly is a much better place than it was, and I'm talking specifically about the downtown and that business district. And imagine where we'd be without this investment, without the commitment and what has happened there. It is an ongoing challenge. Obviously, the pandemic has removed a number of people who are the foot traffic downtown with workers. But, when we were putting the NIS together, I remember that budget season, and lawyers from the governor's office kept coming to me and saying, Senator Brown has this idea he's insisting we include in the budget, and we don't really understand it. I'm like, we absolutely, this has to happen. Yes, I'm for it. Yes, I'm for it. And it took a lot to convince the governor's office and the House Democratic caucus to be on board for it. And it was an interesting time because the governor was a Democrat, the House was controlled by the Democrats, and the Senate was controlled by the Republicans. So Pat was able to influence the Republicans as a Republican member. I was able to, and he was a member of House Republican or Senate Republican leadership. I was a member of House Democratic leadership and had a great relationship with Governor Rendell. And it's sort of the perfect storm, because if you change any one of those, I don't know that the NIS ever comes to be. I can't purport to in any way have the understanding and the grasp of it that Senator Brown did and does, but I knew this much, that it was the vehicle necessary for us to advance investment in our city, and also as part of that to get the arena built. And I think the NIS wasn't about a funding mechanism for the arena. It was about a way to transform the city, and the arena was obviously a significant focal point of that effort.
That is a great story, and thanks for sharing that. It makes me think of sort of the current political environment we're in. I didn't think I'd go down this road, but this is how my brain works. And you said it was basically a split House or a split Congress at that time, right? State Congress. And you were still able to get probably one of the more significant bills and passages through. We're in a sort of similar state on a national level right now, but it doesn't feel like anyone can get anything through. Do you find the ability to cross over the aisle has changed significantly since you were in?
I was in Harrisburg earlier this week, and I happened to have the opportunity to meet a new member, a young guy from Northeast Pennsylvania in his first term. So he's 5 months into this gig.
Yeah.
And we were talking a little bit, and he told me how when he was running, he referred to himself as a moderate, and immediately got chastised by his own party that he should never refer to himself as a moderate again. That is absolutely absurd.
Yeah.
And we've come to that because in reality, I think the overwhelming majority of the American people are moderates.
Right.
They will align and affiliate with one party or the other, or the political spectrum to the left or to the right. But somehow, some way, I think the majority of us are here in the middle, who want to compromise, who want to see things happen and get done and advance our communities.
Yeah.
But the noisemakers are on the extremes. And so elected officials sometimes fall into that, or candidates fall into that trap and feel they've got to run to the noise of their party. And that just makes it more difficult to get things done. And to this young man's credit, specifically, he said to me, he said, that didn't change how I spoke about myself, and it's not going to change how I govern as a member of the state house. But a lot of people do. They're afraid of that noise from the extremes of their party, and it's counterproductive. Because like anything, and in any relationship, Jimmy, with your wife, you're not going to agree on everything, but if you don't learn how to find middle ground, things aren't going to end well.
Absolutely. I'm trying to learn that every day.
I'm sure you've got that figured out. but honestly, I'm an optimist. I'm truly an optimist, and I actually think that there are signs that people are tired of the extreme partisan nature that we've observed in the past, 6-7 years especially. And I think it just takes people who are in a position of elected office just reaching out across the aisle and erasing those lines.
Yeah.
That's what it's going to take.
Yep. I think that's great. All right. So I see we've already used up way more time than I thought we would. Let's go back to the very start, the wireless company. Can you give me just a brief background on sort of how you got your business start?
Sure. Well, I've always been a bit of a self-starter, very entrepreneurial. And I think, honestly, that business mindset helped make me a successful legislator because I wasn't reacting to needs in the community. I was reaching out proactively to identify what they were and trying to meet them. And I think that's really what business is about, right? You're identifying some market need and you're trying to fill it. I just happened to be at a time just out of college where I knew somebody who had this business. And remember those, well, you're probably too young to remember pagers, but there was a time almost 30 years ago at this point that everybody had one.
Yeah.
Everybody and their brother. And on most of my accounts were corporate accounts. So I resold that service, but to large, not onesie twosie here and there, but corporations that use them, like PPL, for example. All their linemen had pagers with me, and so we resold cellular service, which was still new and actually very lucrative to be a reseller for the big players. And it was a great way to kind of cut my teeth and learn how to run a business. I'm very much a person that believes in fundamentals. I think the fundamentals of business are the same whether you're in a small business or a big business. Again, it's just scale. I think the fundamentals of any sport are the same. It's just the level of play. You play baseball more or less the same way in Little League as you do in the major leagues. Golf is golf. It's just to another level and skill set. And it was a great way to learn about business, understand some of those challenges, because I think, what really prepares you for elected office is whatever your life experience has been. The last thing we want is everybody running for office to have the same background, because then we'll have one perspective. And really the idea in our democracy is that we have representation that's reflective of the people that you're serving.
Yeah.
And so you want people from all walks of life, and that's what gives its flavor and keeps things real, and that you have really fair representation, that everybody's perspective is being presented. And so for me, I had always had a desire to run for elected office, and it was a goofy thing from the time I was a little girl. And I was always in my mind preparing myself for that opportunity, and being in business for myself really helped me understand a small business is the catalyst of our economy. Most people work for a small business. We hear about the big businesses because they make the most noise, but most people work in a small business environment, and it really helped me to understand the challenges business owners face and the things that they have to consider as a business owner. So it was a great way to cut my teeth and prepare me to bring some perspective to the table when the opportunity came to run for office.
That's great. Yeah. And so the opportunity came, and something that I thought was funny was in this Morning Call article again, they asked you about not having name recognition. And and having to go up against people who might have greater name recognition. And your line, and I've heard you say it here a couple times, was that you were going to outwork them. You were going to work harder and show up. And I don't know that you've stopped. Do you continue to this day to outwork people? I mean, do you feel that you're constantly doing that?
I think it's just kind of how you're wired. I need to be busy, and if something comes to mind, if there's one more thing I can do to help somebody, whether it's a client, whether it's a nonprofit, whether honestly, Jimmy, it's just somebody that needs a text to say how you're doing, or offer some help. If it comes to my mind, I feel like I have to do it, which leaves me with not a whole lot of downtime. But I think my family would tell you they don't like downtime, Jen. I don't transition easy. I kind of have the Lehigh University mantra of work hard, play hard.
Yeah.
So whatever I'm doing with my foot on the gas.
Which is sort of back to your Allentown point.
Including driving.
I'm not your insurance agent, so that doesn't concern me. That's okay.
Good to know. I will never get one of those things that, they let you record how you're driving, what your speed is. Yeah, no way.
Telematics.
Not doing that.
But that goes back to the Allentown and the Lehigh Valley ethos that you talked about, right? It's sort of, we are hard workers and we show up and we do the job. And so you've sort of taken that and manifested it. And through your first career and then politics and now into your current career, which is a consulting business. Can you tell everyone a little bit about what you do there?
Well, sure. I mean, I think it's not uncommon for, legislators to move over to government relations or lobbying side. And I did that sort of gradually over time because I've done a whole lot of business development, working with companies looking to expand their business by connecting them with people who they could do business with. So a lot of networking. And I think really in a nutshell, my life has been about building relationships, maintaining relationships, and utilizing those relationships to the benefit of my clients, so that when there is a situation or where they need an introduction, I know the person that they need to talk to, or I'm a step or an introduction away from that person, and so that means a whole lot of things, and we've been successful in helping people identify business opportunities in the Valley. I also do government relations and helping entities and organizations build relationships with local elected officials, state elected officials, people in state government in general, when I talk about the administration, the various agencies and departments, but also securing funding. I mean, that's a big part of what I did when I was in office. And I've said this before, that because I walked away from being an elected official, I didn't walk away from the things I care about. Whether those are helping to grow businesses here in the Lehigh Valley, whether that's philanthropic causes, whether that's supporting education as an opportunity for children to really change the trajectory of their lives. Those things are all real to me. And so with my business, I'm able to work with organizations, both non-for-profit and for-profit entities, to help them become better. And some of it is your more ordinary, government relations, tracking legislation, and so forth. But all those things are important because they help the organizations be stronger.
That's great. And that ties into, I know you're involved with the charter school. Could you talk a little bit about what you do there and how you got involved?
Well, sure. Executive Education Academy Charter School is a school located on Union Boulevard in the old Western Electric building for my old-time Allentown friends. And it's right there, right by Coca-Cola Park. And the school is now in its 9th year. We are a K-12 school with almost 1,400 students. A little more than 900 of those kids come from the Allentown School District proper. Maybe another 300 come from Bethlehem, and then the rest of that mix comes from about 10, 12 other districts throughout the Lehigh Valley and beyond. And really our mission was to create an environment in which we can control the culture. Because what we've seen and challenges, particularly here in Allentown, is a lot of instability with leadership at the district, in my opinion, mismanagement of funds, And what we've seen as a result of more money and mismanagement is achievements go down, graduation rates are down, truancy is up, and it's out of control. And I say that as a very proud William Allen High School graduate, and I say that recognizing that we have many students come out of the Allentown School District and go on and have been very successful, go on to do great things. So this is not anything about the students whatsoever. It's that they deserve better from the administration and those who are dictating the environments in which they're learning. So we've created an environment where there are controls and there's mutual respect, there's accountability, and opportunity. And our students at Executive understand that if they comply with the expectations and meet or surpass the expectations that are placed upon them by those that instruct them, that there are going to be even more opportunities and rewards for doing that, and it fuels itself. We do not have a truancy problem at our school. We do not expel. We do not suspend students. We work with those kids to make the whole student and create an environment where the adults are in charge in that building, and our kids come to learn, and our achievement levels continue to grow every year. We will say we have much more improvement to go in that, but we are focused on it. We continue to work hard to create relationships and opportunities with the outside world, so that our kids can go out and be good citizens, enter the workforce, and have a life-sustaining job. Just a quick aside, I was over at the school yesterday with our CEO, Bob Lysick, and he and I and one other gentleman, Steve Flavel, remain affiliated with the school, or the co-founders of the school. And I was over yesterday, and Bob was telling me how Lehigh Valley Health Network had some folks at the school yesterday interviewing a number of our seniors for job opportunities upon graduation. That's the kind of stuff that excites me. Today, there was an assembly that I missed, but we had 15 of our kids presented with scholarships to the tune of $5,000 each to advance their education, courtesy of Lehigh Valley Health Network. So we've got a very unique relationship with Lehigh Valley for our students and opportunities and career paths within their network, from everything from any type of administrative or operational position within the network, to them assisting with training to be nurses or even physicians and surgeons and beyond. So we're really excited about ensuring that those opportunities exist, because like Jimmy, you know this, there's no magic bullet, there's no one quick fix for anything. Whether we're trying to improve the city of Allentown, is the one size fits all going to solve everything? No. Is one charter school going to save a city full of students? No. But if we don't make an effort, if we don't try, and we give up, then we know we're going to fail. So we've got to go and chip away and do every bit we can to make a difference, student by student, opportunity by opportunity, whether it's business by business, person by person. And that's how we change our community for the better. That's how we change the city for the better. And I think that's how we position the Lehigh Valley to continue to be one of the most desirable places to live, one of the fastest growing regions, not only in Pennsylvania, but in the country. And it takes good people. And if we do continue to work together, we will continue to advance our community going forward for decades to come.
Ooh, are you ready to run for office again? Because I'm all excited to vote for you after that.
Oh, I'll tell you what, I had an epiphany of sanity about 12 years ago when I left, and I'm trying to stay on the same track, but if you get that I'm still passionate about a lot of things, you're absolutely correct.
Absolutely. Well, we are out of time. I cannot tell you how much I've enjoyed this conversation. There's one thing we do at the end of every show. Our sponsor is Notch Modern Kitchen and Bar. They're amazing. They do these awesome custom cocktails. And I like to ask people, and so I know that you work hard, but it sounds like you also play hard. So when you're ready to play, what are you reaching for? What is your drink of choice at that moment?
Oh gosh, that's so sad. I in all this craziness of craft brew and craft distilleries and all of that, I'm just a Coors Light girl. everybody knows it. If I walk in any place that I would frequent, they know Jenn's there. It's Coors Light time, and if a bar doesn't serve Coors Light, we don't walk in.
It's good. It's good to know what you like.
Well, it's kind of a standing joke, but I like to keep that simple. But I do enjoy my time on the golf course when I can do it. As you know, I'm a crazy avid Philadelphia sports fan. Anybody that's friends with me on social media knows about my affinity and passion, particularly for the Phillies. And
so the Iron Pigs were a
for my
dream
little
come true
dog,
for you.
everybody knows Little Stanley. But I've got a great family, and we like to have some fun when we're off the clock.
That's great. Well, I can't thank you enough. This has been incredible. It's been insightful. It's been eye-opening. Thank you, Jenn Mann, for coming on.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity, Jimmy. Thanks for having me today, and continued success with your show. I think it's fantastic, and you're a great guy with a lot of personality, and I think this podcast is going to continue to grow.
Thank you so much. All right, Jenn Mann, thank you, and we'll see you next time.
I look forward to it. Take care.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the YMI Talking podcast. If you enjoyed this and want to hear more content from amazing personalities in the Valley, please subscribe, leave a rating, and drop us a quick review.